Hey folks, it's Greg Traynor from Accessible Hunter. And I want to talk a little bit about accessibility in the outdoors using assistive technology. Now, everyone uses, voice to text and uses Siri, but Apple came out with a software update, I believe it's 18.0, where you can text using satellites outside. Now, down here at the farm, we have, sketchy cell phone coverage. So this is a big boon for us. And I'll show you how I do it. Hey Siri, send a text message to Beth Traynor.
What do you want to say?
Hey, we're having a great day down at the farm using some assistive technology.
Send it?
Yes.
Done.
Now, using satellites, you can't do group text, but you can do individual text. And not only can I send them, but I can receive them. So I can do everything by voice. Right here from my ground blind, I'm able to hunt independently and still be in communication with my wife. I hope this helps some of you. Have a great day. Thanks for listening.
What's up, beautiful people? Today we have a little bit of a different episode. Today we're going to talk with Greg Traynor of Accessible Hunting and Outdoors, and we're going to talk about some hunting. And one thing we're going to talk about is accessible technology. So right now I'm going to bring Greg on and let him introduce himself and get the conversation going.
Hey, folks, it's Greg Traynor, and I really appreciate you having me on the podcast today. I'm definitely excited to be on it. I've been hunting all my life. The last 25 years, I've been hunting from a wheelchair due to a spinal cord injury. And I think it's really important that we're able to get out and get in the outdoors and still do the things we love, even though I have a disability. That doesn't really stop me from, doing everything that I want to do. I just need to do it a different way. And sometimes I need a little assistance doing it.
That's awesome. So exactly how did your injury happen?
Well, Ben, whenever I was 31, I had a diving accident. It's kind of a freak diving accident. I was in waist deep water and I was on a freshwater lake and I thought I dove out, but I dove down and hit my head on a sandy bottom. So I didn't jump off of anything. I didn't dive into the water. I was in a standing position, waist deep water in New England, in Massachusetts. I lived on a little lake and thought I dove out, but dove down and hit my head and broke my neck at the C4-5 level. So I'm a complete injury, um, like right at my chest level. And that was in 1999. So I've been a person with quadriplegia for 25 years.
So you were hunting before the accident and you continued, right?
Yep, I started hunting at the age of 12. I'm originally from Pennsylvania, and most kids start hunting at the age of 12 in PA. And I hunted independently, pretty much, all over Pennsylvania. I started bow hunting whenever I was 16. I hunted a couple of different states as an adult with my bow. I really enjoyed hunting. And then when my injury happened at 31, it took me about 10 years to get strong enough and to figure out how to go hunting again. But I started hunting again as a quadriplegic in 2010.
Okay, so what did hunting look like, and how did you start that journey? Like, what was the beginning of you realizing you had a injury, and then going from the injury to hunting again? What did it look like? How did you get started back doing it? What was the process like to get started?
I did my rehabilitation at Shepherd Center in Atlanta, Georgia, and I give them all the credit in the world to motivating me that I could still do things that I wanted to do, just a different way. When I was in Shepherd, they actually took me down to the gymnasium and put an air rifle in a mount, and I was using a crank trigger, a BMF trigger that a gentleman in Texas designed and made, and that let me shoot an air rifle. And even though I wasn't strong enough or at the point in my life where I considered hunting again, that stuck in the back of my mind that, hey, I could still do it. So as I got stronger and got healthier over the next couple of years, I always thought about going hunting again. And I started off using the BFM trigger, um, that I used in Shepherd Center. Um, That was really a game changer. And I started looking around on the internet. And keep in mind, this was 2010. There really wasn't anything available. So I started a blog post called Accessible Hunter just to kind of document my journey and to kind of reach out to other people. And I contacted Buckmasters, and they had sent me a mount, a really simple mount, and a crossbow, a Horton crossbow. And then I used the crank trigger and just started hitting the archery range and trying to get better and to try to get accurate. And that's how I started Accessible Hunter, and that was in 2010.
So let's talk a little bit. How does the crank trigger work, and what does it look like for the people that don't know and is interested in how the technology works?
Okay. The crank trigger, it's basically, it fits inside the trigger housing. And whenever you turn it, like I can't feel my hands, I can't feel my arms, but I could bump the crank trigger. And instead of making a rotation, I just have it set up in the trigger housing that I could bump it and it would pull the trigger for me. Now that's what I started off using was the BMF trigger that Grace Somerville's father made, and that's the one that I used at Shepherd Center. Right now, I'm using a B Adaptive trigger. They're out in Indiana, and it's a sip and puff trigger, so it's a little bit more accurate. I can just take a sip on a straw, and it activates my trigger. So my system has changed over the years, but I originally started with the crank trigger.
Okay, now I have another question. So you know how like when we're hunting and we see a big buck and we can start breathing heavy and we start shaking. How do you control your breathing? What's the difficulty around that? Is there certain things you have to do to calm down a little more than somebody else, or is it just as easy as someone else? Like what's the difficulty, if I may ask?
It is super easy, Ben. It's not a difficult process at all. It's just the straw comes right up to my mouth, and you just have to take a sip on it, just like you're sipping, sweet tea or taking a drink. Um, Calming your nerves, as I said, I've been hunting pretty much all my life, and what I found out works the best for me is I have an internal conversation with myself. Okay, here comes the deer. Okay, it's coming into the zone where I'm set up because I don't have a lot of movement. I can move the crossbow mount, a couple inches one way or the other, which transfers to about 20 feet one way or the other out, where I'm hunting. So I'm talking to myself. Okay, am I lined up correctly? Is the deer or turkey going to come into my spot where I think I'm going to get a shot? Okay, it's here. Okay, take it. So I have an internal conversation with myself that calms me down. And then after the shot, Ben, I'm still as nervous and excited as everybody else. I almost get the shakes after the shot. But through years of practice, I just kind of talk to myself and make the shot that I need to make.
That's awesome. So I know a lot of people with spinal cord injuries have like muscle spasms and their body kind of hurts. Does pain release when you go hunting, or what does it do for your body in nature to be hunting like that? Is it have you found any healing effects to it?
As you just mentioned, having a spinal cord injury, I've always got neuropathic pain. So for me personally, my arms and my butt burn constantly. It's a 24-hour, 7 days a week pain that doesn't go away. But when I'm in nature, when I'm sitting in a ground blind, when I'm concentrating on hunting deer, it takes my mind to a different place that I don't necessarily concentrate on it. I do have spasms that when I move, sometimes it'll jerk me one way or the other, or if I move, a muscle, sometimes I get a spasm. Um, but mostly it's neuropathic pain, a deep burning, like a terrible sunburn that just never goes away. It's on my arms and on my butt, but when I'm doing other things and not thinking about it, it kind of lets me get away from that pain. The the experiences I have in nature really elevate me mentally and I look forward to it. I look forward to being out with my family and friends and being hunting again. Uh, that's what I enjoy most in life.
That's awesome. So, how do you control your muscle spasms when you're out in the woods and you see a deer and you're about to have a spasm? Is there a certain special thing that you have to do, like mind control? You just keep having the same conversation. There's a deer. Let's calm down.
I just basically, talk to myself. I try not to make big, gross movements that would spook the deer, but those big, gross movements also trigger my spasms. Like if I'm trying to move my arms or I'm going side to side, sometimes I can get, a pretty bad spasm. But I've been a quad for 25 years, so I kind of learned which way to move and how to behave. Also, being cold or being hot can kind of trigger that kind of thing too. So I do use a Mr. Heater, buddy heater in my ground blinds to kind of try to stay warm. Or if I'm out and it's too hot, I use a cooling vest. So I have trouble regulating body temperature. If I get too cold, my arms will start to pull up, and that can make it difficult. But I try to stay warm in the ground blind just with layering with how I'm dressed and also using a Mr. Heater buddy heater.
You're doing a lot of work with, I think the assistive technology of what, Pennsylvania or something like that. You're doing the videos. I want to make sure we mention that and talk a little bit about how Accessible Hunter plays a part in that, and if it's expanded what you do with Accessible Hunter because of that. How did you get involved with that, and how has that expanded what you're doing with Accessible Hunter?
Well, been going back to whenever I was first injured. I had my undergraduate degree from Penn State, so I couldn't really do what I was doing professionally before working, loss prevention and audit. And more importantly, I didn't want to do that anymore. So when I had the opportunity, I went back to school at the University of Pittsburgh and I got my master's in rehabilitation counseling and certificate in assistive technology. So I wanted to do something with assistive tech. My experience at Shepherd Center really let me know that there was a lot of things that were possible using computers and using assistive technology that would enhance my life as a quadriplegic and give me greater independence. So after my injury, I went back to school. I got my master's. I really concentrated on assistive technology. And whenever I wanted to go back hunting again, I wanted to figure out how would I be able to do that and how would AT play a role in that. So I am a big proponent of assistive tech. Um, Living here in Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania Assistive Technology Foundation, they offer low interest loans for anything AT related. I purchased my van through them. I was able to make payments on the van over 10 years. So they had my van payments low, and they're just a wonderful group to work with. So I had some experience with PATF, and when things come up, they kind of reach out to me and say, would you like to partner on this project? Well, November is Assistive Technology Awareness Month. They asked me if I wanted to do some AT videos about the outdoors and also some of the AT I use around the house. And I jumped at the chance, or at least rolled with the chance, and said, yeah, I'd like to be a part of the program. And I'm doing 8 videos this month with the PATF.
That's awesome. So, how have you introduced anybody new through seeing your videos and commenting on the videos? And have you introduced anybody new to hunting that never thought they could do it because of what you're doing with the assistive technology in the videos?
Absolutely. I've had Accessible Hunter for the last 14 years, and Mike Hudson and I we do a podcast, the Accessible Hunter podcast. But I've also got almost 10,000 followers on Facebook on my Accessible Hunter page, and over those 14 years, we've had the ability to reach out to people to have meaningful conversations about different equipment, about going on different hunts, about sharing the experience of just getting out with friends and family and giving our thoughts and how we do things. So I think we've actually touched a lot of people, not only in the United States, but around the world as far as getting back out hunting.
That's awesome. So have you only hunted deer, or have you hunted different animals like elk, or I know you said something about turkey. Have you gotten to go on any extreme hunts or elk or anything like that? What is your hope to do with what you do with hunting? Like, where do you hope to go? That you want to go to, like, Missouri or anywhere like that, or where do you hope to go?
Well, so far I've hunted several different states. Let's see, my home state's PA. I've also hunted Maryland a few times. I've hunted Illinois. I've hunted in Missouri. Um, Pennsylvania has an elk lottery where about, I don't know, 35 or 40,000 people apply for 100 elk permits. That would be my dream hunt bucket list, would be to hunt a Pennsylvania elk. Um, I mostly hunt white-tailed deer, turkey, pheasants, and some small game. But I would love to go out west, do maybe an antelope hunt or an elk hunt, something like that. The last 2 years, Ben, I've had a really bad pressure wound, and that's kept me at home, trying to get healed up on it. I'm starting to see a little bit of progress in the last month or two that it's starting to heal up, and in the past it hasn't. So I'm kind of limited on travel. So I concentrate on mostly hunting here in PA.
So how have you seen any, like, help of the pressures or hunting, or has it helped you in any way because you're able to get out in the woods to the air? Or have you noticed anything like that? Is it like helping with the healing process because you go hunting?
Well, mentally, it is absolutely helping. The ability to get out, sit in a ground blind with my wife or my brother or friends, and be able to get out hunting, that is just such a mental boost for me. I'm also fortunate enough that I have a really good power chair that I can do my tilt and recline. Even though I'm in a ground blind, I still try to do my pressure relief, my weight shifts every 20 to 30 minutes. The track fab chair that I have, the outdoor chair that I have, it has tilt and recline on it. So I am able to do my pressure relief that maybe somebody that doesn't have, a higher end wheelchair, a wheelchair that has rehab seating, they may be stuck in bed, not being able to get out. So I'm very fortunate that I have the right type of power wheelchair, the rehab seating that still allows me to do pressure relief.
How have you found that technology has helped hunting based on what it used to be? Like, how has it progressed? Like, because I know with me, for example, I know with me when I first went hunting, it takes 4 or 5 people to get me in the woods. But if I had an all-terrain chair and the track chair, it would only maybe take like 1 or 2 people. So how has technology helped you progress with hunting? Because I saw the video yesterday where you're talking about satellites when hunting, and now you said you can hunt independently because you don't have your wife around. So I guess she's able to maybe walk off and go scout somewhere else or do her own thing, or you completely by yourself. How has technology helped with that? I was just going to give you some examples so you can kind of know what the question was and what I'm asking.
Sure. Well, but whenever I say that I'm hunting independently, as a quadriplegic, there is really no independent hunting or independent anything for me. My wife will get me up into my chair, get me all set up, um, take me off of safe, get me into the ground blind, and most of the time she hunts, with me. She is sitting with me with her camera, and we spend, you know, 3 or 4 hours on a hunt together. Now, whenever I say independent, I can sit there independent. She can go back down to the farmhouse, and I can text her using voice to text with my phone. So the technology has definitely improved this year, where I can use satellites and use my voice to text. So that does give me an opportunity to sit independently and maybe hunt for an hour or so by myself. Um, the technology has definitely improved, and we've gotten it down to such a science that Beth can put me in my chair. She gets my crossbow mount on me, cranks up my crossbow, puts an arrow in it, and then I'm pretty good to go, independently as possible. But I still need a lot of help getting set up, getting in the ground blind, all of that. So whenever I say independent, I mean as independent as possible, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. So my question is: has there ever been a time where she's been on up there at the house or wherever, and you're in the gun line by yourself? Have you ever shot a deer by yourself when she's not there? You're like, hey, I got a car. I just shot a deer.
Last year, I did shoot a deer, and then I just texted her, and I was very close to the house, the farmhouse property we have. I'm able to get my everyday wheelchair into my ground blind. It's like a 4 minute drive from the driveway up to the ground blind. So I was able to do that independently, and it really brought that memory back of hunting alone, a sense of accomplishment, that type of thing. So I have been able to experience that in the past. Yes.
That's awesome. So I want to talk a little bit about your ground blind and how it works because I know you said that you have like a garage door opening, and I've seen the video. They're pretty cool, and I'm going to put links to the video. So talk a little bit about how your ground blind is and how you adapted it for yourself and different things you can do to adapt your equipment so that you can use it, to make it easy.
Sure. So, ground blinds come in all different shapes and sizes, and there's 100 different manufacturers. Over the last couple of years, I've been using Baronet blinds, and they make a Feather 5 model, and I believe also a Pentagon model that basically has a door that both sides unzip on it, and then that entire door flips up like a garage door. And it gives me so much room that I can take my track fab wheelchair through it, my everyday wheelchair through it. And it's a 5-sided pentagon blind that I'm still able to do weight shifts where whenever I tilt back, I don't know if people can see me move, but when I'm tilting back, my crossbow with the bolt on it, the arrow goes up in the air, and having the domed roof, I'm still able to do my weight shifts independently. It has a high enough roof that people can stand, and I can do my weight shifts. So just to give a shout out to Baronet blinds for their accessibility, they're made for everyone. It's not a disabled, specific blind, but I know a lot of hunters with disabilities and wheelchairs love them because of the size of the door and the height of the ceiling on it.
Yeah, I never saw them until I met you and watched your video. They're pretty cool. So I'm gonna have to try those next time I go hunt because I need help getting into blind and it's just been difficult. And so now I can try that. So, what's the biggest deer you killed, and is there a deer you're looking for, or do you have cameras? Like, how does that work?
I do have cameras out. Basically, the biggest whitetail that I ever got, I went on a hunt with the Tom Sipple Foundation, and it was a specific hunt for people with disabilities that they fundraise for here in Pennsylvania every year. And it was basically on a farm, and it's a white deer. It's not an albino, but it's a white deer. It weighed about almost 300 pounds, and I think it's a non-typical. I think it scores about 170 inches. It's just a massive deer. The biggest whitetail free range deer that I've ever gotten was a 9 point, and it weighed about 160 pounds. And it was just an awesome experience with my bow. Um, for me, I've gotten a lot of smaller bucks, Ben. I don't always wait for a huge giant whitetail. Every legal deer, every legal buck or legal doe to me is a trophy in my mind. And we also donate one deer, the first deer that I get in the season, I donate to Hunters Sharing the Harvest here in Pennsylvania. And that's a program where they fund it. You just drop your deer off at a local butcher. The organization pays for the processing, and then they donate all of the meat to food pantries and food banks, people that need the meat. And it's just an incredible program. So that's Hunters Sharing the Harvest. But I'm fortunate enough that I have the ability to get a deer almost every season. This year, I've let several does pass and several smaller bucks on our property pass by. I've been waiting on a bigger buck, but I haven't seen him yet.
So you told me that you were gonna go hunting the other day when we were supposed to do the podcast and had to reschedule because I'm like, I'm not gonna let that man miss the time to go out in the woods and go hunting just for a podcast. So how did that hunt go and what did it look like? Did you have any success or?
That was actually this week, and it was Monday. The weather here was like 64 degrees, and my wife took a half day off of work, and she said, "Hey, it's nice weather. Do you want to go hunting?" So I messaged you and I said, "Ben, would you mind if we rescheduled?" You were so gracious and said, "Go ahead and go." So we got down to the farmhouse about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I actually pulled into the driveway and I chased two deer out of the orchard. They seen me getting out of the van and they took off. So I didn't get into the ground blind till about 2:15 in the afternoon. It was a beautiful day. We hunted until probably 5:15, 5:30, but I didn't see any other deer. I think I jumped them out of the orchard. It was a full moon this week, and I think they were already, in the orchard earlier than expected. They usually don't come in until about 3 o'clock or so, but I jumped them out of there prematurely. So it was a wonderful night hunting with my wife, but we didn't see another deer Monday night.
Yeah, I've always found that it's always better and easier. Not easier, but I had my best luck in the evening time when I go hunting. The early morning, it's just so hard to get out there with accessibility, all the things we gotta do. So anybody wondering, I always find the best time to go hunting in the evening for anybody listening. But Greg might have a different opinion on that.
No, but that's an excellent point. And when I was first injured, and we would go on hunts, either with groups or people would want to set up a hunt. I would have to get up at like 3 o'clock in the morning. My wife would get up at 2:30 in the morning, shower, and then get me up. For us to get into the woods anytime, trying to get into the woods at 6 o'clock in the morning or 5:30 in the morning, that is just such an early day that we no longer accept invites or go hunting on the morning hunts. They're too difficult on me and too difficult on my wife. We're getting a little bit older, and we find that we're a lot more successful in the afternoon. So when people are talking about getting up early in the morning, that's a 2:30 in the morning hunt for me.
Yeah, no, that's right. So, what's the difference in hunting with a crossbow, with a gun, with in your situation and your technology? Is there any differences that you have to prepare for? Anything you have to look for? Any kind of differences you have to set up for? Or is it all the same?
Well, it at my heart, I've always been a bow hunter. Since I started bow hunting at 16, I love being able to get very close to the deer or to the turkey. And when I say very close, I'm saying anywhere from 10 feet to 40 yards. That's really my effective range. I shoot my crossbow out to 50 when I'm practicing and things like that. But mostly whenever I'm shooting at a deer, it's anywhere from 10 feet to probably 30 yards. That's where I'm most comfortable at. Now with a rifle, I'm good out to 100 yards, 150 yards, but I'd rather spend the time getting close to the animal. That's what I enjoy most. One of the big issues with bow hunting is scent. I'm in a wheelchair. I try to stay as scent free as possible, but I have everyday smells around my chair. It makes it a little harder to stay scent free in a wheelchair to get those animals close. The big difference, I think, between bow hunting and rifle hunting is your effective range. For me, I don't really think, shooting a deer at 300 yards, to me personally, that's not how I want to hunt. I think that's more of a marksmanship thing. People that are really good shots out that far, you know, that's great for them. But I like to hunt close. I like to have the deer very close that I'm up close and personal.
Yeah, because a lot of people with disabilities, a lot of people have also vision problems too. So it's kind of even hard to hunt that far out. I know spinal cord injuries don't have that, but I know a lot of people with maybe vision impairment that might be listening. They may wonder, how can I do it? Because your vision. So that is a good point to make, that you hunt close so you can see.
Well, And there's a company that does my triggers, Be Adaptive, as I said, out in Indiana. They do a lot of work with scopes for people with disabilities as far as vision impairment. They can actually connect a camera to the scope and put that onto an iPad. So people with vision impairments, people who are totally blind, can have somebody that will direct them. Hey, move your rifle up, down, left, right, and walk them through that. Whenever they're on the animal, then they can either pull the trigger or activate the trigger with a sip and puff. So there is a ton of equipment made by Be Adaptive that any disability you have, they can accommodate.
Okay. So, would you being an accessible hunter and liking the technology and playing such a vital part in that, is there any technology that you helped create, help adapt, or gave these people, like the technology companies, ideas? Have you played a part in developing some of that stuff?
Well, over the years, Ben, I've worked closely with Be Adaptive and given them some ideas on things. And I can't say that I've invented things. We've manufactured our own mount. That the mount I have, I designed it. A friend of mine welded it up for me, so it works specifically for me. We don't manufacture it, but there are mounts out there. The thing to keep in mind is every disability is different. You talk with 10 different guys that have spinal cord injury. All of us have different movement, different strengths, that kind of thing. So the mount that I have and designed is specifically for me. Be Adaptive has some really great mounts that you can operate with a joystick. So if you only have neck movement, it has motors on it that you can use it, the joystick to move that around. There's a lot of different mounts available and a lot of different trigger systems that everybody can use.
That's awesome. I know we have like the Buckarama and different things like that in different places we go to buy hunting rifles and equipment. So, there any magazines or companies that you can offer for people to check into to buy their equipment and different shows that they can go to and different places they may be able to look? And I'll also add links to these on the description of the video.
Sure. I would recommend that people go to their local sportsman shows. Talk to people, go to your local gun and archery clubs, let them know that you're interested in hunting or shooting, and see what's available locally. Now, for me, I'm a big proponent of getting on the internet, and there's a lot of different groups out there. You have Buckmasters, you have a lot of different disabled hunting groups. um, my accessible hunter site, we link to a lot of different groups. Just get on and basically do the research for your part of the country and see what's available, because there are tons of groups out there to get people out hunting again. Charities that pay for everything. Basically, they're just looking for individuals with disabilities to come hunting.
Yeah, so the people, what you're saying is people can look to accessible hunter and what you do, and you can give them technology tips as well.
Absolutely. People can text me, they can email me, and I'd be happy to talk with them and offer my opinion and try to be a resource for people. That's what we've been doing the last 14 years.
Awesome. So as we add the, wrap the conversation up, is there anything you want to say, you want to add, you want to talk about before we wrap the conversation up? Make sure I didn't leave nothing out.
Well, I just want to tell people, don't be afraid to try. We're always going to fail. We're always going to have to go to plan B. There's not any instance that I go out that I don't learn from something, that I want to try to do it a better way. So don't be afraid to fail. Be safe. It takes a lot of extra effort how we hunt and the equipment that we use, that we have to always be thinking about safety and also an ethical shot on that animal. When you get equipment, go to the range, practice, know how that equipment works, and basically just be as safe as you can be. Never give anybody a reason to doubt that you're being a safe and ethical hunter.
Yeah.
Ben, I also want to say thank you to you for advocating as much as you do for people with disabilities, for having me on and a chance to share my experience about getting in the outdoors and helping people go hunting again.
Well, thank you for allowing me to interview you because we're in this together. I'm glad that I met you. It's just because we had this conversation on podcast, we're gonna keep in touch and keep conversating and things like that. And I'm gonna get out there in the woods with you in Michigan. We're gonna kill a deer together.
Absolutely, bud. I'd love to have you up here in PA, and we're going to have you on our Accessible Hunter podcast this week too. And man, I'm looking forward to talking more with you.
Sounds good. Well, I look forward to talking to you soon, bud.